All right.
Cool.
So,
And then I was going to ask when so we were at the park and she was kind of running closer to the sidewalk so that I could come. And then should I always have her come to my heel when I say come?
no. So yes and no.
Okay.
So first thing was when we do the recall, that playfulness.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to the playfulness, but it was playfulness away from you.
Right.
Is that you'll find one day you're calling her, she overshoots it, right? She's being playful and then goes again.
Yeah.
So recall is when I call you, you come to me and you stay put until I give you the next command or I release you.
Okay.
When it comes to where the dog lands for the recall, I personally don't care. Left, right, front, back between my legs. I just want immediate space like that. Okay. So that last one was really good. She came in and landed right next to you. That's a recall. Okay. So when the dog has options and they land that close, that tells me they're getting the concept of when you call me, it's here. Okay. If you want a more consistent, like I would like you to just land here because I'm going to put you in the heel almost always. We can teach that. If that's what you're wanting, what I would do is when you take her out to practice, have food with you. And when you call her, you're going to just add in the food here. So she starts to always target this side. Does that make sense? So then she'll land on your left. And then once you condition that, recall becomes, I come to mom, but there's always something for me there. So I'm going to always shoot for that side, what makes it easier for you to put her in the heel.
Right.
Now there is an in-between command, which is, I call it finish, is when Elsa's moving towards me, when she lands about 4 feet, I cue the word finish, and she'll loop around, and she'll come in and position herself exactly like that.
Okay.
Then I can go into a heel. Okay. So it's not like I teach it. I have no problem with it, but most clients don't use it.
Okay.
They usually just use the come and then move and then go to the heel.
So like so when we were at the park, she was like running towards like whoever on the sidewalk, and I didn't need her to like come then to be right by me. It was just more of a like, okay, you're
Closer.
going too far, just go closer. So am I able to like tap for that, or if I'm saying come?
So come
Yeah.
is here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You would just do a tap. Because
Just
a
a
tap
tap,
just
okay.
goes, you're too far.
Okay. That's
But you would do a lower level tap.
okay.
So like, let's say her working number is like 30, right?
Yeah.
And you tap her at a 30, she's most likely going to do a full recall.
Right.
Because you're doing full power.
Okay.
So you can nuance
But if
things
it's
with
at
your
like a
remote.
20, and she'll be like, okay, I'm going too far.
Correct.
Okay.
So like my dogs, right? Like let's say you're me and my dogs are here sniffing.
Yeah.
They go too far, I tap them. And they'll
Yeah.
keep sniffing, but they
Okay.
just come into the space,
That's
right?
what she was doing. I just didn't say come for that because like I feel like the come to me.
Then that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so obedience, sit, stay down, come place heel.
Right.
It's a very specific, standardized
Right.
thing you do.
Right.
And like, just don't chase that squirrel. It's like, I don't care what you do,
Yeah.
just don't chase that squirrel.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
And then there were people like walking through, there were like bushes basically where like the grass is there. And she saw a dog and like barked at it. She's been good about just like barking once, which is better than like her being obsessively like barking at a dog. But then I tapped her there and she came back towards me. And in that situation, do I just kind of like, okay, playtime's over, like you were not supposed to be, because I feel like barking at another dog, I'm like, okay.
yeah. So like she can be loose and not bark at dogs.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So if she's barking, then she'll be like, okay, we're done.
So if you want to teach her to not bark, but still be within the context, right? You'd correct the barking behavior, but stay. Because if you leave,
Yeah.
she
okay.
doesn't retain that barking at dogs isn't what you wanted, or not barking at dogs.
Okay.
So in order for a dog to learn, you remember that day with the picture? You're there, right? Most people after that happens, pull away.
Right.
And I go, no, because then the dogs never learn what it was that we disagreed with.
Right.
Because you moved the situation.
Okay.
I correct them and we keep them in the situation.
Okay.
So the dog goes, oh, it's not being around other dogs that makes the remote go off. It's when I try to attack. the other dog.
Yeah,
That
okay.
makes the remote go off, right?
Right.
So in this case, if it's I stop her barking and we pack up and go,
Yeah.
she doesn't learn that barking at the dog was bad because you removed it from the context.
Yeah.
It would be I correct her for the barking and I stay within the context,
Okay.
right? And I actually saw your video with Shelby about the dog behind the fence. So we actually just posted it, or I'm posting it now.
Okay.
Is he helped one of our clients do an in-home session, and there was a dog behind the fence and he started lunging and barking.
Yeah.
So Ollie became reactive,
Right.
and he stopped the reactivity and then said walk back and forth a few times so that
Right.
the last thing he remembered was I barked, it was corrected, and then I had to deal with this
Right,
and
right.
not
Okay.
bad, right?
Yeah.
So then when he
That's,
leaves,
okay, that makes sense.
that's what he retains.
There was a drummer like on Mercy or Fullerton or something, and the first time we went, she barked at him. I tapped her, and then we walked back the second time, and she didn't bark. She was like, obviously not comfortable with him like being in the grass there, but
Yeah.
she didn't. So okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, you're not going to get comfort happy right away.
Yeah.
You know, so it's and I'm not worried about happy.
And then just wait for the next dog to come by and see if she barks at that dog.
Correct.
But not you. Okay.
Now, and
that
you have
makes
to use your better judgment because you might get someone who's walking in and they're like, oh, your dog's like off leash. I'm going to bring my dog off leash, right? Then you have to remove yourself because they're going to
Right.
either tell them no or
Yeah.
remove yourself because
Right.
you know what's going to happen next.
Right.
But if it's like they're minding their business over there playing ball or something and she's barking at them because she doesn't like the energy, that you can disagree with and still be within the environment.
Right.
Okay? So like that, like I see that dog over there
Yeah.
and I'm just keeping an eye on it because I'm like at some point that dog might be like, oh look, there's another dog.
Okay.
And they most likely don't have any control. So, okay.
Cool.
Other questions?
Oh yeah, one more about reactivity. So there's like her arch nemesis in the building, and I just do that when she like this dog is like it's bit me. Like lunges, not when I was with her, but it like lunges, growls, like it's really bad. And so whenever that dog comes around, obviously Elsa does the same thing. And I was tapping her at like 90, and she's like low when I like tap.
Yep.
She actually bit me. Actually, she was going
Redirected?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
I mean, her teeth like like out like it was like an comp,
Yeah.
but she definitely had her teeth out ready to attack this dog. And even at 90, she was growling and still.
Sure. Were you pulling back?
When the dog was there, probably.
Yeah. Those things negate each other.
Yeah.
We never pull back or up and back. We always pull up.
Yeah.
Okay. So up and away.
Yeah.
So because when you go higher,
Yeah.
one, she's already in a state of agitation,
Right.
and then you're adding more,
Right.
to get her to settle.
Yeah.
As we do up, so we'll shorten the leash so that you're closer.
Yeah.
Because the closer you are, the more immediate leverage you have.
Right.
Up and away. So if she tries to go sideways, she can't reach me. If she tries to go up, I'm going to be going up
Okay,
with her.
okay.
And then you have 37 more levels. Okay. So, but it's very common where the owner will say, I was very high. I've even had people be maxed out, and the dog was still aggressive. And I'll ask them, are you pulling back? And they'll say, I think so. And I'm like, that's why. Because app says be more aggressive. Up says is de-escalation.
Yeah.
Okay. So that paired with the tapping
I just
should
think
shut
about
her
it.
down.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might have her on the right side in the building.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's fine. Whatever you got to do, right? Obedience is meant to fit in the black and white world. We don't have a black and white world, right? So you can go outside of obedience. Like if the dog heels here, and I see something happening here, I'm like, yeah, it's not going to be good. I will move the dog to my right.
Yeah.
I
know.
Move the dog to my right for the situation, but it was on my terms. I don't want the dog being on their terms because then they're switching sides, every 5
She
seconds.
has been going more towards the right, but I'll just keep her on the left.
And you can also teach, like dogs learn by context.
Yeah.
So inside the building, you can keep her on the right, teach her the right side,
Yeah.
and then once you get outside, you can just flip it to the left side.
Okay.
Whatever works, whatever's gonna work best.
Okay.
Dog, it's just consistency.
Okay.
So that she'll learn, oh, in the building I'm here, but when we're outside, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay?
Cool. Perfect.
Anything else?
No. Thanks.
So we're gonna add something to this. The recall looks good, the speed looks good, just that minor tweak. So whenever you practice with Elsa, you want to practice to that degree. Okay, so if you notice she's overshooting or she's a little bit too playful, you want to make sure they're very direct recalls, because those times when you're practicing or playing with her, that's actually what you're training, right? So if you call Elsa and she comes to you, and she's here, I don't care where she lands, and I were to like move like this after she lands, what should Elsa do?
Follow.
Correct. Okay. So did we do this thing on the the side step exercise? I don't think so. You just did this once, right, in class?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna teach the side step exercise today.
Okay.
So there's two reasons for the side step. One is to cement in Elsa's brain that when you call her, it's blue to me. Okay. So I don't care how she moves in this exercise. I just care that she follows you by default.
Okay.
The other reason why we do this is because it allows us to force confusion. So like if I step away from Elsa and I tap her, it may cause her to veer off, okay? Which we don't ever want. So if she veers off, then I go into tap correction mode, draw her to me.
Okay.
So then I'm teaching her when you feel the remote, it will never mean run away. It'll always mean come to me, okay? So we're doing this to prove her obedience so that in real life, if you mistap her, if you cause confusion, if she goes into panic state and you have to crank it or whatever, her default response should be return. Okay? Questions? So it's going to be super simple. Elsa, come. She lands. We're going to wait a moment, let her settle, get that auto sit. Let's say she lands here. You can move immediately to your right, okay, or backwards. Any direction but forward like. Because if Elsa lands and I go like this, what does that look like? Yes. So then I don't know if she's default healing or if she's understanding the concept of stay with me.
Okay.
And you wouldn't want to do, like if she's here, if I go to the right, I'd go like this. I wouldn't go like this. Because again, it's forward like.
Right.
Okay, so I'm doing very awkward movements away from her. And each time you do so, you want to wait a moment, let her settle first, get the beat, the auto sit, then move. Okay, because some clients will just keep the movement going, and it doesn't allow the dog to really get the concept. So just make sure to do that, okay?
Okay.
Great. Just angle out this way. That dog is starting to veer off this way.
Elsa, come. Should I say like come during it?
Tap. This is all default. There you go. Right there. So go forward to me.
Heel.
Tap forward. So, tap forward. Shoes on, nose on the ground. So, whenever you feel like you should be saying something, just go. Okay, so like earlier, when she overshot it, you went right? And then you did it a couple times, and then there was something else when you did the heel. She wasn't healing with you, you said, come on, let's go. All of that is remote. Okay? Because the more remote you use, the less you have to say stuff. So, it's command, and then you do it, okay? The other thing is, I'm conditioning you to use that as much as possible.
Right.
Everybody's first instinct in an emergency or panic state is sound or physical control.
Right.
So the more I make you use that, then when that happens, it should, knock on wood, should happen, it's already there, okay? And I plan on putting a video of this together because I had that happen to a client. Then a dog came off leash, and her dog's friendly. And I was like, and she panicked. And the dog was on the leash, something bad was happening. And I'm like, he was in a recall, and then he diverted. And I was like, back, tap, right? And she's like, right? And then like the dog ran away. And then she's like, I didn't know what to do. And I said, well, I was telling you what to do. She's like, I didn't hear you. I was like just up in my head. I'm like, welcome to real life. And that was just a situation where we were here on a leash. Her husband was here. I was here. It was a friendly dog. It wasn't even an emergency. And she was panicking. So when you're doing this stuff, like let's say Elsa gets tangled up with the leash, I also work the dog through that. Most owners stop, remove it, and come back. But in life, if something's inhibiting your dog from returning, you're not going to be allowed to do that, or you may not be able to do that, right? You you have to force the compliance. Okay? So all these things I've seen so many times that I'm like desensitized to it, and I know as the owner like what's going to happen. That's why I tell you, so that if you find yourself in that context, you're like, oh, like she's tangled up. Oh wait, no, Jesse said to make her do it, right? Now I will say be mindful, because I did have someone prior to training, they had their dog in a long leash and he was playing with other dogs and it wrapped around the leg too many times and broke the leg. Okay, so yes, use your better judgment, right? But if it's just like a tangle, like it's stuck in her, you know, behind her, whatever, everybody's like, oh, like stop. And I'm like, nope, make it happen. Okay, so because that's both for you and the dog. Because for Elsa, she's like, oh shit, this is annoying, but this is annoying too. Which one is more important?
Figure out like how to...
Yeah, that's why that tension is important right now. Because even if she's tangled, if I keep putting tension on her as I'm remoting and I'm moving backwards, she's like, I'm gonna go forward. Boom, everything stops. And she's like, oh shit, like, I did it. And then for you, emotionally, it's gonna feel bad. You know, because you see her tangled up, you see her needing help, you see her possibly panicking, because she's like, holy crap, there's too much going on. But that's life, okay? So, like, you know, in the setting, like, when there's someone with their off-leash dog, and maybe she's off-leash, and you didn't see that interaction, she's taking off and you're jacking up to 100 and you're remoting, like she's gonna be in clear discomfort. That her instinct should always be to return, okay? Because that actually happens to a client over here. Her dog, just they're playing tennis or whatever, they're playing ball, and some girls were walking, and when the dog went after the ball, when he picked up the ball and like looked up and noticed that there were the two girls walking, she just hooked it after the two girls. So she had to jack it up, and she's like, as soon as she felt like 100 or whatever, she returned, and she's like, is that correct? I'm like, yeah, you know, because you weren't planning for it, and, you know, and like obedience only gets you so much, but you're gonna be thrown these random things, and it's like, how do I regain control in a situation where I didn't have control originally? So, okay, so that was really good. With your side steps, if there is any delay, you are creating a delay, okay? So on that third, the first two were good, and the third or fourth one was a little too slow. So when you're moving with Elsa, she should already be moving with you. And on that last one, you had moved, and it was about a second or so before that tap came in to trigger her to move. So then if you always did that, you would create a second gap. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay.
Right, because it should be instantaneous.
Yeah.
It should be instant. It's like heel. The moment you move, she moves, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with the side step. The moment you start moving, she should already be moving. So if you start to move and you see no response from her, you can already kick in. Okay? Don't wait till you land and then tap her to see, like, are you going to do this at any point? You make her do it as quickly as possible, and then you're going to start seeing her do to you as well. Okay? So repeat that a few more times. And break. Break.
When we get to light, we're going to do this. Watch. 1 and 2. 2. Pull on the ball. Go again.
Tap. There you go. Good.
So 2 taps to the right.
Better. Tap. There you go. Better. Heel.
The 30 was like, she's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, so maybe she was thinking that.
Yeah, so that's super common, especially if someone's engaged with it.
Yeah.
They'll be a bit tighter.
Yeah.
So that's why I stopped heading and moving in.
Yeah.
And then also you put the feeding.
Yeah.
What you do is you keep promoting.
So should I not say come more than one?
Always one. Every command is always one. Sit, lay down, face up,
Okay.
Always once, and you reinforce it with the mom. Okay? So then she's thinking, if mom calls me, it's one chance,
Yeah.
but several taps before I actually do it. Okay? So you're trying to get her to pull away, ideally only using the remote. And then if needed, the leash would come after, right? So it's like Elsa come, tap. Then I start to pull to give her that direction to get her to move. Okay, so we're trying to get everything to the tap, because if she's fully off leash, again, that's all you're going to have. You're not going to have that directional pressure. So that's why we always incorporate that first. Come, tap,
Yeah.
keep remoting, no response, then I'm remoting and I add in a little bit of leash pressure to direct them to pull away. Okay, and break it. Break. What's that? There you go. Good. Try backwards.
Everyone.
Good.
Not mine, that's on the right.
Tap, hold right there. Good. Now what you can do here is turn like this, and then just say heel and walk forward. There you go. And then pivot this way. Forward, tap, there you go. So, the way we've been doing the heel is like we're always facing the same direction.
Yeah.
And that's just making it easier for the human. Yeah. But for the dog, as long as she's on your left, you can cue in any, no matter where she's facing, right?
Okay.
So if she was angled like this, right? You're angled like this, so then I just had you go like that. And go, and she saw her turn in, or turn out to go in, and then she'll back on your leg. Right? So don't always feel like you have to be exactly like this when you go into the heel. I just make sure the dog is on my left, and then I cue it, and then that's much easier for them to go into. Okay, so that was much better.
Okay.
Now we're gonna do a couple more. Break. It's already like scared stupid. I can already tell.
Like I'm over.
First spirit is like
Yeah. Come.
Okay, now we'll play
Tap.
for speed. Let's see. Score. Luca, finish up.
Tap. Good. Good.
Yeah, that's just about it.
Hey, Grant.
But she's not. Tap. There you go. Good. Okay, one more. Break. Good. Heel. Very good. So, we covered the stay, right?
Yeah, with the right foot.
So, for the recall, in terms of practicing this, right, now we're just adding an extra layer to ensure that she doesn't prematurely leave. So if she's like, you know, she have prey drive? Like squirrels and stuff? Yeah. So like, let's say like she's barking at the squirrels or whatever, and I call her. I like to wait a moment, because sometimes the dogs will go back to wanting to chase the squirrels and stuff.
Yeah.
Is I'll use that to my advantage to cement in their brain, like when I call you, your job is to stay put.
Right.
And then I might throw in like a side exercise, side step, right? Because if they're really too moved to the squirrels and you move away, they're not going to sense that. But it gives me something to remote. But then what would also happen is they go to the squirrel. Because that's what they want to do.
Right.
So then it gives me something to correct and reaffirm for them, like, no, you need to.
Yeah,
Get
I
over
let
it.
her do that with the rabbit. Her and wife and Dennis.
You had her back?
Back.
Yeah. So,
Chasing.
so then using that stuff to your advantage, both as a distraction and as a reward.
Okay.
Again, she's a dog. I have nothing against dogs being dogs. I just want to make sure that we have the control.
Yeah.
And then like you can even like put her in the heel and walk through an area where there's a bunch of squirrels. You know, she has to contain herself. And then I might stop. She auto sits. I wait a moment. Okay, now you can go to the squirrel. So she goes, oh, cool. Like, it's not that I can't do that. It's that, like, I just have to wait for permission.
Yeah.
Okay. And it helps you prove your obedience. So, like, I was working with a puppy of ours named Walter. And he's a German short-haired pointer. And he has very good prey drive. And on Thursday, we were working on his long leash stuff. And she was walking directly to a tree with a squirrel. And he just went, took off. So she had to go to 100 before he went, and he like returned to her. And then after that, like he was like new to her. But I told her, you're forcing him into the issue to see what are you going to do, okay? And that's what proves the obedience. So things like that as well is you're using it as a distraction, but also under control, you know. So then she at one point like downed him and was like 10 feet away from him, and there was like a bunch of squirrels just around him, and he was just sitting there like observing the squirrels, which is fine. But I wanted to see like would he break to go chase him. You know, so things like that, because the longer they sit there having to control themselves, and like that temptation, it's going to be challenging. Okay, so use that stuff to your advantage. So now we have the heel, we have the recall, and we have the stay. As I start to blend these things together, okay, how have you been able to like practice the stay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to just do a quick little warm up. Okay. I'm going to have you do your long leash heel. Okay. And then you're going to go into a stay. Now have you done stay with the longer leash? No. You have not. Okay. So what you're going to do is, since you're just starting with the long leash, is when you give her the stay, you're going to grab it closer to, giving her 4 or 5 feet of slack. So you're going to grab it closer to like here. Okay. Because you want to account for that she's not done it yet with this type of leash. That she's probably going to make a mistake and want to follow you, so that we can correct it, and we're going to see if we can blend it in with the other stuff.
And then when we're going to the park with the rabbits and stuff, like when we're, I don't know, away, she's like amped and ready, and we'll like definitely pull one. So should I just keep the heel of like turning and making sure she's on my left side?
And raise the number.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. If you like, let's say she's great with nothing going on. Like right now, she's doing well at 30. You go to the park and you're like, man, 30 is not doing anything. 35, 40, 45. So like find that number. So Walter's number was 30 in the neighborhood, but when she's around squirrels, it's 80. Okay, and then when he was actively breaking the command, he went up as high as 100 before he returned. So now she's like just learning all this stuff, and like this is normal because you're dealing with an animal that's driven by instinct, right? So it's just learning. Oh, there's squirrels. I go to 80. You know, or there's like there's the threat of he may possibly take off. This is a really tempting situation. 100. Like I'm already going to those levels. So I can tell you now she's got a good concept of the heel and the recall for sure. It's just a matter of, is the number high enough to make it important enough for you to comply? Does that make sense? Okay. So you're gonna do a regular heel, using your leash. You're gonna go into the stay. You're gonna see how she does. We'll do a couple of those, and then we're gonna move on to the next thing.
Okay. Heel.
Good. Good. Then back to her side. Up, tap, tap, tap. So go ahead and do one more walk around. There you go.
What'd you do for us? Okay. Heel. Stay.
Get water.
She stepped on the leash.
Good. We'll do one last one.
Okay. Ready? Heel.
Tap, tap. Now walk her back. Tap, 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 tap. Right there. Then move away. Then walk around. Tap, 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 tap. Keep walking. Be careful because there's been some off-leash dogs, okay?
Okay.
Good. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and call a break.
Right.
And we're going to start to blend these things, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to have you do a recall, do some side steps, and then you're going to give her a stay. Okay, so what we're doing is we're switching concepts. You're going from company, follow me, right? And then all of a sudden you're going to be, now you know. You're going to see how she gets that, okay? Now when you switch from the side steps to a stay, you're going to want to shorten your leash again. You want to stay. You're going to make it stay. Okay?
Yeah, very nice. You're getting second class. Really good, man. Really good.
Good.
Okay, last.
Good. And then one step back. Yep, there you go. Good. Now here, once she settles, you're okay. Go to get your leash ready. And then you're going to give the stay. There you go. And then walk around. There you go. Good. Good. Now back to her side. Now you're going to go into let the slack go. And now you go into a heel.
Okay, guys, when you're done, go get water real quick. Go get water real quick.
And slow go stop. Excellent. So we're going to release her. And now for this one, you're going to do a recall. Side step into a heel, into a stay. Okay, I'll remind you. Okay, and break.
Break.
You're so soft. Good. So here, side step, correct. Yep. Tap, tap, tap. Good. Tap. Wait. Oh, did you say heel already?
I said heel.
Okay, sorry. You're fine. Never mind. You're good.
Stay.
Good. Back to her side. All right, we're going to try one more. This next one, you're going to do a recall, no side step, into a stay, then back into a heel. Okay? Thank you. Too much card?
Okay, go get the ones that are.
Good. Good.
All right, guys, I need your help.
She's going to help us with start time. The other person had to cancel because they had a paper, but we got her. Excellent. So, did you see what we did there with each one of those reps?
Yeah.
What?
Maybe one away.
We're mixing it up really.
Yeah.
So like the first two, we just move things around. So I think the first one was like a recall into a side step, into a stay, into a heel.
Yeah.
The next one was a recall into a heel, into a stay.
Right.
Or no, recall, side step, heel, then stay.
Right.
The last one we did take out the side step, right? So you're just switching up the pattern and using them interchangeably to see what is Elsa's concept of those commands. Okay. She's got a good concept of the stay. Most dogs, when the owner goes from side step to stay, the dog wants to keep following. So then I tell them, now we have something to work on. Okay, her, she got it right off the bat. So when you work with her now, you can start blending these things together. You just do not want to call Elsa from a stay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't do stay. Elsa, come.
Okay. So it goes from stay to heel?
Yes, because, so the reason why stay to heel is okay, and this is my personal preference, and I'll explain why, is for Elsa, if I release her when I'm next to her, in the stationary position, right? I'm always next to her. If she's being stationary and I'm away from her, we're much less likely to get a mistake from her because we've never released her from a distance. Okay, because dogs see things in pictures. So she's like, I always get released when mom is here somewhere immediate to me, right?
Okay.
If you do a recall from a stay, she's gonna pick up that pattern, and then the next time you call her to stay, and you're gonna call her, she's already gonna be coming to you. So then it screws up that whole stationary concept. So then, like later on, if I need her to absolutely not move, and I'm doing something away from her, she's like, oh, did they call me? She's gonna start moving, and in that moment, I don't need that. Okay, so I'm avoiding creating that problem. Now, I do get clients that their only way to train is to train from a stationary position because they don't have anybody that can help them, and maybe they don't have like access to a car or something. So I go, in your case, it's fine. But then if that's the case, what I do is I don't always call them from a stationary position. Sometimes I might walk away and then come back and then release them or then give them the heel because I don't want them to think every time you tell me stay, you always call me because that creates the pattern. Okay? Or if I tell her stay and I walk away, I might randomize when I actually call her.
So when I say stay, then I really shouldn't go too far away from the place where like if I
Poop or whatever. I mean, you can push as far as you want. I just don't call her. You know.
Okay.
So like I've had people do stay and go 100 feet away and then come back.
Yeah.
You know, that's perfectly fine. That's just part of the training routine.
Yeah.
It's I'll just tell them like stay away from calling.
Oh yeah.
You know, because then the dog may assume or think they heard you call them or release them at a distance, and when you're not ready for it, that's a problem. Okay.
Okay.
So if the person has to do that, I just tell them either switch up the pattern so that's not always a guarantee, and don't always call the dog from stationary position, and try to mix up as much as possible so they don't learn that.
Right.
That's why like dogs learn to hold like sit, paw down, or roll over type
That's
of stuff.
why we were mixing her tricks around because she would just always do roll over
she
first.
learned the pattern.
I'm like, nope.
Yeah. So now you have 3 things that you can work with the long leash. Okay, so like if you're with her, you do a recall off of the squirrels, you can do a couple of side steps into a heel, walk some more, to a stop, into a stay, walk away, come back, into a heel or into a release.
Yeah.
You know, and then now you're just blending these things to build towards that off-leash reliability. Okay? Questions about that?
Nope.
Questions about anything else?
I was just thinking I've been doing off-leash like about
The long leash? Yeah. So the only thing about that
with no distraction.
is
Yeah.
my biggest concern is there something in the area that's dangerous, right? So like here, if I did no leash, I'd go deeper, right? Because now I'm further away, and these aren't even busy streets, but I go deeper, so I'm away from that, in case she screws up, right? Or I screw up.
Right.
So I usually tell people if you do no leash, it's enclosed area, or where you're at a safe distance, because you have to account for what happens when she gets confused, what happens if she panics, what happens when a squirrel runs by and holy crap, I didn't see that, what happens if there's an off-leash dog, right? So that long leash just gives you physical means of making her return if needed, until we've worked through all those things, right? So like right now, when I said with the side step, I had it happen at least 5 times this week where the dog got confused and ran off, and we used that to prove things. So knowing that these things are there, I just go, the more you practice the long leash, the more you put yourself in the position where it may happen, that you can fix it. And so when you're off leash, if it does happen, I've already addressed it before, and it should be a much easier fix than if it were to be like the first time, maybe you remote her, and she starts to go like, I don't know what to do, and she runs away, and like, uh-oh, and I'm making it have to figure it back.
Right.
Okay. But I've had clients as soon as one class be off leash walking their dog.
Yeah.
So it just I just
this one I would not feel comfortable with, but the other one there's like no one there.
Sure. Yeah. Then I'm not like it's not a no. It's just be mindful.
Right. Okay. And then with socialization stuff, like there's a big park I used to take her to before we went to before we were doing class at Miller Meadow, like out in River Forest. If I have a muzzle with her there, are people gonna like be pissed that I have her there and have the big park?
I've taken dogs with muzzle at the dog park.
No one says anything.
At least I've not come across that.
Yeah.
I did have a client whose dog was muzzled, and what happened? It was like they weren't even doing anything. The dog was just muzzled, and the person just like got on them.
Yeah.
And they're like, and I was like, what? I'm like, it was just, quote unquote, a carrot of sorts coming
That's
in.
fine, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If she's in a heel, she should stay in the sit.
Yeah.
you would say break and then she could do whatever. Okay, so you may get someone who
Might
says
say something,
something,
yeah.
you know, and it's like, well, my dog's muzzled. There's nothing that could happen.
Well, I haven't seen her like try to attack a dog with the muzzle on. So like, is she gonna? Like, I don't know.
I mean,
Does she know
if
she
she
has
could,
the
like, it's like that
muzzle?
dog Mac.
Yeah.
Like Mac didn't care muzzle on or off. Like he still went for it.
That's the thing. Like, I haven't seen her. Like, I don't doubt that she would, but it's kind of like if
It's
I
there
take her to
for-
the park and she does it, and there's another dog that then like bites her.
Oh, and then she can't defend herself. Yeah, well then that's where you step in and you become a defender. Like I kicked dogs off a dog before. You know, dogs off these dogs attacking my dogs, or you know.
So we'll try it at the big park first.
Yeah, but you know, if anybody says anything to you, if you're minding your business and you're on your own or whatever, like it's really they're just being an asshole. You know, then that's just keep walking.
Right.
So.
Okay. Yeah.
Anything
Cool.
else?
No.
Yeah, I forgot who it was. I had
Like,
one client, she said she told her dog, oh, you're a good boy, but he was muzzled. And then somebody was like, well, your dog's not a good boy, so they have a muzzle. Yeah, I know.
like,
And then
"Fuck you."
another person was just walking their dog with a muzzle, and then someone came up like, you shouldn't have that dog or something.
someone told me that they were gonna call animal control on her once. Like, she got in like something like when she was younger. I was like, I dare you.
I had a client's
Like,
dog
good luck.
get attacked by a Cane Corso that got off leash from the owner severely. Okay, and they didn't want
Got attacked. The
They're-
dog got attacked or the person got attacked?
the owners of the dog. My client's dog got attacked by another dog, right,
Okay, yeah.
in the South Loop,
Uh-huh.
and they're like, you know, just take the dog. They actually sent the dog to the guy to meet,
Yeah.
and he ended up not doing anything or whatever. And then like the next day was like out with the dog off leash after they like he had attacked their dog. So then they started trying to press, you know, charges and all that stuff. And it was a pain in the ass. It was super difficult.
Well, I work with kids in foster care that have been like, are still not taken away from their parents.
Yeah, so
Like,
knowing that, I tell people like, don't even worry
I was
about
like,
it.
I try. It's not gonna happen.
Especially
since
if
the dog
there's-
wasn't even injured.
Yeah,
I was like,
you know.
She's just being a dick. I was
Yeah,
like,
so this was a full-on attack, and I think another one happened. They had to contact the alderman and like all this stuff, and it was like at least like a 2 to 3 month process before, and of them just being on it, before they finally did something about it.
Right.
And it was like the community of the South Loop, like rearing up because the dog kept going off. The guy kept letting the dog off leash. Cane Corso, yeah, which is like a, you know,
Yeah, I know.
those massive dogs.
Yeah, they're good.
So yeah, so I'm not worried about it. And I've had to step in a couple times for people.
Yeah.
You know, to like write a letter to somebody or something like that. So if that is ever needed, like just call me up and we'll take care of it. Okay. So Andrea, this is Kate and Elsa.
Hi,
This is
Kate.
Andrea and Star Fox.
Hey.
How was your week?
It's been good. Like, I'm satisfied. We went off leash. He had his muzzle on and his ear collar. There was like a bunny running around inside of the gate. We tried to like run after it, but it was kind of like walking towards it. But I recalled it with his collar and he just ran away.
Okay.
Yeah, like squirrels and bunnies are not that of a big problem. There used to be like a couple.
Oh, sure,
weeks
yeah,
ago.
And I'm not opposed to him, like I was telling her, like, you know, chasing squirrels and rabbits because they're dogs. It's just I want to make sure that when I tell them to do something, that they're going to do it.
Okay.
Okay. So Kate and Elsa here are going to help us with the socialization. Elsa's also going to have a muzzle as well, and I'm going to show you how I go about kind of teaching them to be friends, if you will. So like dog park isn't really realistic for me because there's so many different personalities, so many different dogs. Not everybody has control over their dog or whatever, right? So there's a lot of variables there. But like if you have a friend with a dog, that's more realistic because you see them on a regular basis and stuff like that. So, okay. Did you reset the recording?